general introduction. Hello, everybody. I'll start with a general introduction to Southern Oregon Family Farms history and current agendas and status, and then we'll open the floor to have each member give a short introduction into their operation, and then we'll shift to having an introduction through new member participants. This also includes professional services and other people that are accessing the call. So Southern Oregon Family Farms started with Kristine and Devin. Kristine is our president. They were cooperating as a partnership farms located on the same piece of property. And this year, about 9 months ago, we came into this year with the wholesale model that was really kind of fallen out from beneath us. So each of us were looking at developing a dispensary direct distribution model. And the 4 farms, we teamed up to share our sales reps and sales connections. We found that distribution model was tedious and expensive, and we were going over the 20% mark in costs quite easily. So we had to assess our business model. At that same time, we had a lot more interest in joining the cooperative attempts at competing against the corporate cannabis model. And so we are now also, with the addition of green light laws, white paper, we really had to look at our short-term foundation that we will utilize to accomplish our liquidity cash concerns for small family farms. Also, with keeping in mind our long-term vision of representing Southern Oregon on a nationwide scale through advocacy groups. So we are still in the foundational stage of creating a working platform that emphasizes consumer confidence. We plan on attaining consumer confidence through cooperation as a group in getting a grading platform in place. This would be an internal grading platform that has an auditing kind of system or person within Southern Oregon Family Farms that can help to ensure that quality standard across the board. We're also incorporating a third-party grading system to help advocate for the quality standards that might reach to farther reaches than our own internal situation. Our goals currently are, on the long term, to have our hands more involved in direct distribution and light processing, but on the short term, that for this next year, 2023, we're utilizing cooperative agreements with wholesalers that are willing to share our distribution contacts, like who they're selling to. Through an agreement with our wholesalers, we engage in those relationships and education platform to work with bud tenders and sharing the co-branding opportunity of where the flower comes from each farm. We recently expanded our board to include 10 different positions. We're working on the 11th right now. So our board positions is president, vice president, sergeant of arms, financial chair, board and policy development, grading, packaging, sales, thank you. And there's a couple more. Marketing, social media. I think those are 2 different chairs. And we're looking at adding, is that just one? Oh, and then secretary. Yes, Sarah being secretary. So the 11th position is new member outreach and member education. Well, there's plenty of work that we still have to do. If we want to pass the floor to anybody else, maybe Kristine, to maybe touch base on some of our current action items that she would like to touch on. I'd like to introduce Kristine Miller, the president of Southern Oregon Family.
Why don't we just do our 30-second intros, because we also have Amy on this call, and we had a conversation just the other day, and was an incredibly enlightening conversation. So I'd love to have plenty of time for her to talk. And then we have a lot of guests too.
Sure.
I'm seeing Farmer Tom. Finally got Greg and Lauren Brown
Yeah.
here, right? Yeah, and then there's the Jon on call. I don't know who that is. But anyway, let's introduce the farm members. Try to keep it down to 30 seconds. And then we can introduce our guest farm members, and then we can give the floor to Amy and she could talk a little bit.
Sure.
What do you think?
While I still have the floor, I guess I'll introduce my farm. We have 2 tier 2s. We grow in native soil. We have 2 different soil layouts. We have a clay, we have a sandy loam. We're located on the confluence of the Applegate and the Rogue Rivers. We strive for organic regenerative cultivation, though throughout the last couple of years, financial challenges have resulted to using some nutrients to aid. We do not use any oil-based sprays or pesticides. We really just focus on biological pesticide management. Because of the farms around us, we have quite a bit of russet mite drift. So we use mainly biological type sprays. We do not have any in-house development of strains. So I look at specialized strains every year that are unique. And I'll pass the floor to, let's say, Green Bandit.
Hey everybody, Brian and Sarah with Green Bandit. We are located in outside of Eagle Point. We're a tier 2 sun-grown farm with focus on organic and regenerative growing techniques. We try to close as many loops as we can here, creating compost and things like that, doing mulches and ways that we can see products run in a circle on our property as much as they can and stay here. And then past that, we've always kind of been bent on looking at reducing waste in every way that we can. And so we've always looked a lot at the packaging side of the industry and what are we doing to minimize those wastes. So part of what I like about being part of this group is that if we can create changes for our own farm that are good for the environment and for everybody else, then if we all join, then we're actually creating some real change. And I like that. So nice to be here. Good to see everybody's faces. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Let's hear from Kristine of Southern Oregon Moonshine.
Hi, I'm Kristine with Southern Oregon Moonshine. I am a 2nd generation Southern Oregon cannabis farmer. I do a lot of my own pheno hunting or breeding with my friends here in the Valley, and we focus on sustainability. I built my own organic living soil from locally sourced material as much as possible, and that's about it.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much, Kristine. Is Devin on the call, or do you want to introduce a little bit about what Circle D and your relationship there?
Devin is elk hunting right now. It's the season. But I'm growing out on his family property in Southern Oregon. He's the 3rd generation of his family to live and work this property, which is pretty cool. He has been growing his whole entire life. He started the medical program, or he started even before that. And then he had a felony for growing cannabis. We had to get that expunged. So he didn't get his first license until 2017 because it took me a minute to get that figured out. But same thing, we've shared resources, and we'd focus on sustainability, and we only use biological pest control. And Devin is very, very focused on quality. So he's really, very like every pound that Circle D produces looks immaculate, which is pretty awesome. So
for farm members, let's try to keep it to 30-second introductions. Sorry, so that we don't go too long.
Well, I really appreciate Kristine touching base. You guys have really been a part of my growing experience. They introduced me to my business platform that I'm at, and I really appreciate working with you guys. Thank you so much, Kristine. Well, who's next? Let's look at Tyler Carpenter.
Uh-oh, Tyler, your audio is not on. You're not on mute though either. You want to switch over to Patrick maybe? Well,
Yeah, while you figure that out, Tyler, we'll switch over to Patrick of Roganja, Massive Seeds.
What are we looking at in Patrick's video? It looks like.
Sorry,
Probably
guys.
in his car.
I was trying to go to a place to park, but it's coming up on me. I'm Patrick with Roganja and Massive Seeds. We do our own breeding. We are tier 2 out in Eagle Point, and currently working on getting Sun Earth certified. We used to be certified kind, and now just going for that. We mainly are selling pre-rolls this year, and with some limited A-buds. We've always tried to set the bar as high as we could, trying to reach the highest prices per pound. And at this point, with the price per pound, we're not really interested in that part of our business, and hoping with the co-op that we will figure out a way to make it more profitable, having a marijuana license, producer license. Thank you.
Hey, Aaron, I forgot that Amy did inform me that she only has until 10:30.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was wondering if maybe we could switch over to her, and
Yeah,
then
we can pass her the floor.
and then at 10:30 we could come back and continue. I'd like to introduce myself too at some point. So cool.
Yeah. Let's hear from you, Amy.
Yeah,
Thank
Amy.
Hi, everybody. Thanks. And I'm so sorry. I had a preset meeting when I learned about this one. So I'm sorry to be quick on this, or else I could participate and listen to the whole thing. I know some of you on this call. My name's Amy Margolis. I've been doing work in the cannabis space before anybody called it that. I started as a criminal defense lawyer, and I've been doing that for about 21 years now. And I represented and met a number of you through that, many years before any sort of legalization. And I also started in 2014, the Oregon Cannabis Association, and I ran that until 2019, end of 2019. And I just came back about a month and a half ago to take that back over. And I talked to Andrew DeWeese, who I've also known for a long time, and he let me know what you guys were working on. And we wanted to kind of think about how we could help support what you guys are up to, and also kind of generally what's been going on down in Southern Oregon. And, you know, we have a few kind of pillars guiding what we're doing in the legislature this year and with OLCC. The first is kind of a small government platform, which is less OLCC regulation, less OLCC enforcement, and, you know, trying to figure out how are ways that we can lessen the regulatory burden on industry participants. Because once you've got the moratorium, the next thing to do to help make this, I think, economically sustainable, other than what you're working on with pricing, and we have some things that we're kind of cooking up as well with that, is to kind of lessen what we're doing. That includes lessening the metric burden, child-proof packaging, and generally the kind of second pillar is environmental sustainability. So how do we support what's happening with the small farms? How do we support and incentivize sustainable agriculture? And I'm sure you all have other ideas that you are working on in that area. But those are kind of two big buckets that we're working on in the sustainability. And the third is social justice. We've been quietly expunging hundreds of people's convictions. We partnered with PCC, we pay the fines, we pay the fees, and we help support this woman, Lainey, who's amazing, who's been doing that through the Clear Clinic. And so we have not talked about doing that so much, but it's something we've been doing now for a long, long time. So, you know, we're interested in seeing how we can help. We're interested in having you guys participate. We have a great lobbying team, and we've also kind of reconstructed the OCA board to include a Southern Oregon spot, although we have a number of members from down in Southern Oregon and a couple board members from down in Southern Oregon. But to have somebody who's really kind of clearly advocating for what I think are some unique challenges down there, both economic, enforcement, environmental, all those things we just discussed. So I'm happy to be here. I'm sorry I can't stay for the whole call, but I'm also happy to answer any questions in the kind of 8-10 minutes that I've got left before I have to hop on that other one. So thank you for having me. I think what you guys are working on is amazing.
Yeah, I know we had some questions because I think I brought up that we visited on Tuesday. And then I think we had I think there definitely was interest in to being a liaison for your organization as well as ours. But there was questions about that. Do you guys remember what we were asking?
Sure.
Yeah, Aaron.
My question is about how we would structure it. Our ideas is that we would have a representative from some Southern Oregon family farms act as a liaison for the group that speaks for the group and helps to report to the group about how we can and what we can do to be our best to help our interactions with the OCA. Is that correct?
So I see a light on somebody else, but I don't know if you want to add to that, or I'm also happy to answer that question.
You should.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that there's a couple different ways for us to do that. I think one is to talk about having you guys take that Southern Oregon spot on the board. And that's like kind of the most direct interaction possible. The board does a lot of stuff. We actually have a board meeting today. We meet once a month. We have a number of emails and phone calls. So I think the kind of quickest and easiest way is to have somebody join and take that Southern Oregon spot. That would be the most direct involvement. And I think it is a time commitment. So it'd be somebody who, does need to attend the board meetings, does need to act as a liaison with Southern Oregon, and this group. So, but that's the way I would do it.
Great.
Yeah, so maybe it's something that we can reserve for someone that isn't already as active as they are in our organization at this time, because we're just now filling out committees, and we seem to be creating new committees and new, having new ideas that we want to pursue. But it probably would be good to have somebody who's not necessarily already on a committee or board position, but can be actively involved in the OCA and participate in that organization, but also be able to represent Southern Oregon Family Farms too, maybe?
I mean, that's up to you guys. So, I mean, it's really up to kind of like some people have a lot of bandwidth for involvement in these kind of activities, and people really, I think either love to be involved in that stuff, or they just like don't want to be, and they'd rather be kind of behind the scenes. So that's kind of up to you guys organizationally, who you think would be best and who has the bandwidth to do that. And so, I'm kind of agnostic about how you pick that person. We'd be just excited to have somebody who's there representing.
Cool. Amy, could you tell us a little bit more about the one that I think is where we could fill a unique niche is the sustainability aspect of it. Could you tell us a little bit about your tier 2 or your second pillar in activity involvement and initiatives?
Yeah. So, we've been working kind of what our legislative and regulatory priorities are, and without being kind of too granular, although I'm happy to be as granular as I can, we have a focus on a few different things. I think the first is, and everybody feels this, is the packaging piece. And I think that's something we'll be collaborating with other groups on, and that we're going to take a strong legislative and regulatory position. I think kind of in the most extreme, that position would be that we don't need childproof packaging anymore. And that there does not serve a public health and safety risk. Do I think we're going to win that this legislative session? Probably not. I think the sort of secondary part of that is, and then we can talk about kind of sustainable agriculture as well. But the kind of second piece of that is there a way to create incentives for using environmentally sustainable packaging? So if we don't kind of win the big ask, which is this is stupid, with the exception maybe of edibles, the Mylar bags, I mean, we're just environmental terrorists. And I don't think there's anybody in this industry who doesn't think we're forced to be these environmental terrorists with what's happening at the retail level. So I think the secondary is creating these incentives, and maybe that's funding, and we're kind of working through what that legislative language is going to look like, but to incentivize those people who want to use environmentally friendly packaging if required, but to not have that become an out-of-pocket expense, or an expense that is passed down to the farmer. And it is the OCA's kind of general position that at this point, it feels like farmers are carrying all the costs for everything, and that's kind of systemically unfair. The second is, how do we support good agricultural practices? And that's, I think, that's like a big conversation, and a conversation that really does need, and we have quite a few outdoor growers, but it really does need people who are committed to their kind of own sustainable agricultural practices to help inform what that looks like, both legislatively and on a regulatory side. So, we are, I think, like anybody who's being kind of honest, I mean, eventually the borders are going to drop. When that's going to happen, I don't know. But eventually the borders are going to drop. And from our perspective, Southern Oregon is going to be where cultivation is going to be kind of the heart of cultivation for Oregon. And that can either look like putting all of you out of business and having like big commercial farms come in and just like eat everybody, or that can look like providing support and assistance and engagement for small family farms. And I think we do not want to see this look like an agricultural weed conglomerate. And that's what I think fighting for some of these practices and to allow everybody to continue to be able to like survive is so important. And I think when you couple that with our kind of like broad belief that like we should be growing in a sustainable way and that we should like be good to the planet, that's kind of how we're going to decide to shape that agenda. But that's something that we would want feedback, input, and involvement from this group on.
Right on, Amy. I know you have to get going, so maybe we could save some questions for next time you're here with us.
Yeah, and I've got, if you guys have one more question, I'm happy to answer it, and then I'll pop
Sure.
out and go to my next meeting. Is there anything else I can tell you all?
I'm just really privileged to have the opportunity to be a part of the OCA's action items. We see it as a prestigious position with requirements. So we want to make sure that a right person with the right desire and skill sets is able to participate in that. And I really am pleased to see you part of the call and happy to work together moving forward.
Yeah, we'd be stoked to have you guys. Yeah, go ahead.
Being that you guys meet once a month, and you said that today is actually your meeting day, is that right?
Yeah.
What time is that going to take place?
So we do member meetings and events, like kind of broad ones, at least once a month. So that kind of like open meeting we do, in December, we'll probably do 2, and then legislative session, we do committees and all the kind of things you guys are used to. Today's the board meeting. And so that's actually from 10:30 till 2:30 today. So that's kind of our like, if you guys decide to join the association and want to participate, I think before the next board meeting, we get one of you, whoever you all pick, kind of cooking on that and make sure that you're looped into all the communications.
Thank you.
Would there be a cost to joining the OCA for our organization?
Yeah, so there's a few different things to think about. So we kind of changed, and Greg will remember because he was like one of the founding members of the OCA. How we started the OCA was that before legalization, I went to 10 growers when there was still money floating around. And I asked for $10,000 from those 10 growers who I had worked with for a long time. And the sole purpose of that was to hire a lobbyist. And so we were the first lobbying presence in Salem down in 2014 with that money. And so we've gone through some like iterations of membership. But when I came back, one of the things that was important to me was to like get rid of this kind of pay to play model that we see in other organizations. So we created a single tier of membership, which is $100 a month. And so we got rid of we just don't think that the access should be tied to the money. And so I think that's been like pretty well received, and I think like rightfully so. So, we'd have to talk about if you guys are going to join as a group for $100, but you would need to be a member, but the membership fee is I think we tried to set it at something that was kind of achievable. So I don't know if that would be, we'd talk about how we do that with so many folks, if it's just the one organization, which is the co-op paying that. But we'd talk about it, but that's how we restructured it. So, you'd have to be a member, but the membership fee is intended to not be a barrier to entry. And to not prioritize big operations over small operations, because at this point, we will just lose so much if we start to lose culturally and every way else, we'll just lose everything that makes Oregon weed worthwhile. So. All right, you guys, thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to reconnect with you, and thanks for having me on the call. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
you guys.
All right. Tyler, have you been able to get your computer,
Yeah, it should be working now.
awesome. Yeah, you're
I
loud and
swapped to my
clear.
phone.
Let's hear from you.
So nice to see you guys. Tyler Carpenter with Kumba Hills. We are a tier 2 light deprivation farm outside of Rogue River. We just finished harvest on Sunday, which is great. We're sustainable. We do a hybrid food system with living soil that we take care of through the winter and all through the summer. I'm actually getting ready to do my winter microbial feeds right now, just to boost and feed so that it lives all winter long. And our clone operation is about to become full swing as well. Yeah, that's pretty much what we're up to and what we're about.
Well, thank you so much, Tyler. Let's pass the microphone over to Mark of Alta Farms.
If he's available, I saw in his chat that he might be
Oh,
doing
okay.
it right now.
Oh, that's correct. Well, Justin, let's have you take the floor.
Yeah, Justin Botillier, CEO of Calyx CPA in Medford, Oregon. Been working in the industry since 14, 15, working with some legacy farmers, but then quickly entered the rec market, industry, I guess you could call it. And haven't looked back. We niche. About 80% of our clientele are in the cannabis industry one way or another, and we do a lot of business advisory, tax planning, tax preparation, 280E mitigation, which isn't so bad for you guys, but we work with dispensaries. And I want to pitch my investment opportunity. I'm trying to get into a farm. I have partnered with a land and license holder. I've partnered with a family that is looking to get established in the rec industry. And we need like 60 grand. We're willing to pre-sales. So we're looking to like maybe work with a successful dispensary. We could fully integrate with them. And we would give them 20%, 20% for $60,000 with the pre-sale. Anyway, for you guys, if you know any of those successful dispensaries, right? I guess if we knew them, we'd be making a lot more money, right? So, yeah. Anyway, that's me.
Well, now we're going to be passing the floor over to new member participants. Why don't we start with Adrien, as he's the first one on my list, and we heard from him a little bit prior to recording. You're on mute now, Adrien. And if we don't hear from him, I guess we'll pass the microphone over to, we'll get back to Adrien in a minute. How about Jon? Jon Herda, is that correct?
Alan too. Alan is a new farm applicant. He just recently, like Adrien.
All right, Jon, sorry, you'll be next. All right, Alan, let's hear from you.
Thanks for the invite, Aaron. Jon Herda, Rivergrown Farms. We're a mixed tier 2 in Rogue River. We just got wholesale license and solventless processing. So we've been, washing a bunch of hash lately. And yes, family farm, just me and my 2 sisters, really. Working a couple other friends nearby, like Tyler and some other buddies here, and kind of been doing like a little collective ourselves with sales. And so, yeah, excited to, kind of network more with you guys and, see what we can do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jon. All right, Alan, let's hear from you, buddy.
Hello, my name is Alan Clark. We're a mixed tier 2. We're located on the coast out in Bandit. And, we've really enjoyed coming to the meetings and the direction that you guys are going in. And look forward to see what the future holds.
Sweet. Short and sweet. Adrien, you have some people talking in the background. If you're able to put your microphone on mute, then it won't really confuse the speaking platform. Let's pass the microphone over to you, Greg, and hear a little bit about yourself and how you're doing.
Thanks, Aaron. Hey, I'm Greg Brown, and I own Mountain Sun Botanicals with my wife. We're mixed tier 2, and we strive to bring relevant strains to the market and provide them to other farmers via our nursery.
Heck yeah, you guys do some awesome stuff with pheno hunting. Super stoked about what you guys do up there. Follow your
Thank you.
Instagram just about every day. You and
Thanks.
Ashoa of Ziploc Seeds, you guys do good things. So I love
Thanks so
seeing.
much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Right on.
So who are we gonna hit up next? Are we up to Farmer Tom? I think so. Farmer Tom, let's hear a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Feel honored to be invited. Right now, I'm working in Mississippi, building a grow down there outside of Jackson. Also working in South America and Ecuador with another group. And recently, I've just finished up with a group in Thailand. But I offer my services. I'm pretty nifty with branding and marketing, and I've been growing, well, pretty much my whole life. All organic. You know, back in the day, we just started off with native dirt and compost, and I've kind of just stayed on that trajectory all the way through. We don't use any oils. We do have a IPM management system that we use, and yeah, that's it. I'm honored to be listening in here and see if there's any synergy. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Go ahead.
I didn't catch the name of your farm, Tom.
You know, it's this is Farmer Tom Organics.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
To clarify a little bit, Farmer Tom is not here as a new member applicant. He's here to just see how he can help because his experience is more on a national reach. He's established a robust brand that's has consumer confidence across the United States. And he has some different projects that he's working on, like as he's mentioned, but there's some more that is going on in the background that he didn't quite mention. So there's lots of opportunities that, you know, he's kind of feeling out, and his background aligns very much with Southern Oregon Family Farms and the quality standard and the sun-grown nature. And so the opportunity to work together has, you know, some reach at this moment. So he's just kind of passionate about what we're doing, and the opportunity to work together is really what he's looking at.
Thanks, Aaron. Yes, I'm real passionate about cooperatives and collectives. That's kind of my roots. Our original co-op in San Diego, we had 20 patients. We were a co-op. You brought a light, you paid $50 a month, and employee-owned businesses, that also really is dear to my heart. So, and Aaron kind of filled in there. So thank you guys very much for having me.
Yeah, Farmer Tom also has a podcast. So we did a podcast about a month or so ago, and I represented Southern Oregon Family Farms and what our initial initiatives was. But there is an opportunity in the future to do a follow-up podcast to talk about the cooperatives and, you know, our movement moving forward. Also, he touched a little bit about his marketing experience and logistics as far as helping us. I think there will be quite a bit of synergy in helping us with packaging. And there's also an opportunity to do some co-branding and help give some presence for Farmer Tom's brand here in Oregon. His aim right now is in the pre-roll industry currently. So, you know, there's plenty of stuff on the table to be able to kind of discuss and see what we can do together to help each other.
Looks like Adrien's back. Maybe we should give him the opportunity to introduce
Sweet.
himself.
Good call.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. My computer just did some weird stuff. So anyway, I missed the last 5 minutes. So hello to everybody that's joining now. And but anyway, my name is Adrien Malmitsas. I am the owner of Blue and Yellow Farm, Tier 2, sun-grown, native soil. Pretty small operation. It's just me and a buddy of mine. Obviously bringing some people for harvest and trimming and all that. But yeah, just pretty new to the industry, trying to learn as much as I can. And I'm just super stoked. I'm take a lot of pride in the work that I do, and I'm just really happy and feel blessed to be able to do this. So
It's good to have you, Adrien.
thank you.
So I was just looking at our agenda, and we, as far as anything that's on the agenda, I think it's just introductions and from everybody participating. So now that we've gotten through those introductions, is there any topics that we wanted to discuss as a group?
Well, I'm not sure if everybody was, sorry, Brian has his hand up. I didn't even raise my hand. Go ahead, Brian.
Something that we're just working through in the last few days is preparing to purchase bags, Mylar bags. It was just a place that I thought that collectively we really could save a lot of money if we could come to agreement on a brand of a Mylar bag that people might want to get in on. That's kind of what I'm doing right now, is trying to find what's going to be the best price point and what's the most ecological option that's out there right now, environmentally conscious. And so if people want to talk about, pooling money together to save money and buy bulk, that's just something that I'm going to be looking into currently. And again, because I'm kind of chair of the packaging and product development committee, I feel like might as well pursue this portion of it too. Although this is not a branded item I'm talking about, just something that it's an expense that we all have to make. So I wanted to mention that to everybody. Another thing that, just to throw it out there, and it's something Kristine and I talked about recently, I put it into action since we spoke. I ordered a box of 250 bags. They're the same dimension and thickness of a typical turkey bag. So a 1 millimeter thick bag that is a fully compostable bag. They're going to cost us about 20 cents each. And those will be here sometime next week. And my thinking is that this won't work with all customers, but with quite a few that we work with, I believe that some of my buyers are going to be willing to receive the Mylar pound with the liner bag. The weed will go into the liner bag will go into the Mylar pouch. And I'm going to ask those customers to retain those, and I'll get them back when I make the next delivery. I've always wanted to reuse those Mylar bags, but the idea of like washing them in a world where we're barely making profit seems tough. So the idea of using a 20-cent bag that is compostable and letting that be the thing that goes away forevermore, and getting the Mylar bag back is really interesting to me. So far, it's the best thing I've found as far as this type of an option. So I wanted to mention that to the crew.
Has Kristine talked to you about the work that she's done with Best Bud Bags over there in Medford? And I'd also recommend you maybe stopping by the store and touch a base with them.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. We didn't speak specifically on Best Bud Bags, but the Terp Fresh bags, which are a Rogue River based company that are bringing their raw materials in from Canada, sounds like a pretty good option from an environmental perspective. And again, I haven't found like a compostable bag that's comparable to the Mylar bags for what they do for preservation. So right now that Terp Fresh bag seems like the most appealing option. Kristine, I did look into the Grove bags, and at least online, what I saw was $4, and I believe it's $4.75 per bag. It was listed as a case. I'm guessing a case is 100. When I went to order 10 cases, the price remained the same. So $4,750 for 1,000 bags.
I think when I spoke to him, like just over the phone, I didn't get an email quote. He was saying if we ordered like 2,000, then we can get them for like 70 cents. And then they can make, if we come up with like a label that we like, they also do like labeling, because I don't, they'll like print out labels for really inexpensive too, that we could maybe put on there. That might be an option. I have all those samples here. I'd be happy to meet up with you and like, or if you talked about like having like a barn party, maybe that would be a great spot where everybody could look at them. And then I do have a $600 deposit at Best Bud Bags in Medford. When we first started talking about maybe getting a like branded, like Southern Oregon Family Farms branded bag, maybe that said like Southern Oregon Family, and then we could each put our own label sticker. And they also offer like a really inexpensive labeling option too. I just haven't had time. Like I said, I like the Terp Fresh because of where they source their product and that it's local company. And I've been using Terp Fresh because it's like the most environmentally sustainable option I could find so far for Mylar. They don't source out of China, all this stuff. And so
I always love how he does the Toro.
Adrian, it'd be nice if you put your stuff on mute while you're not speaking.
I think that was Alan.
That was Alan this time.
I'm muted.
I'm in Alan.
Yeah, that was
my
on me.
are
Sorry,
used to the one interrupting all the meetings. So
Cool. So good. Between now and Tuesday's committee meeting, I'm gonna look to get some prices down and availability and those things. So I will talk with you more about these different things off of the meeting. But that's kind of what one of my first things I want to bring to the table is a good option for all of us on Mylar and bulk
I think
bags.
that's great, because we've talked about like we don't really know what we're doing this season, but just having like a generic inexpensive bag that's like one of the best parts of the co-op is like bulk purchasing or bulk, like if we can agree on a bag, a Mylar bag, we could get them, because I'm paying like $125 I think a bag typically for my first Terp Fresh, right around there. And if we can get that to around 75 cents, that would be amazing.
Well, a question I have for everyone is, do people feel that it's highly important that you have a window on that Mylar bag? I'm beginning to like the idea of having a fully opaque bag, and especially if I'm going to have a liner where you can pull that out and look at the weed. And with having an opaque bag, I think it lends itself to many more reuses before it loses its luster, let's say, or like if you don't see through it, no one's going to care that it's wrinkled or hazy, let's say. So just wanted to kind of ask if people feel like that's a good option. Again, just an opaque bag, if that's a good option. I know Patrick had switched to those type of bags, or I believe he did. Go ahead, Patrick. I see your hand up.
I like those. We used to use those Terpene Fresh ones, the white ones with the clear window, and I thought that made the buds pop a little bit. And maybe trying the black ones with the clear window. We went to solid black with a silver liner, and I don't think it does the flower much justice when they open it up. The point of that was because we just get tired of the buyers just ridiculing stuff, like that's not even there. And so we went for don't even look at it then. This is your option. But just recently I have been being like, okay, where can I get those white Terpene Fresh ones with the clear window? Those are the ones we like. Or the black ones I think would be cool too, but we've never used them.
Okay.
I use black ones and Devin uses the white ones just so like it's easy when we're like trying to package. But Redwood Nursery in Grants Pass they're the only like you can get them at Endless Summer in Grants Pass too, but I like to buy from Ed from Redwood. And I was supposed to meet up with I think his name's Ryan, the guy that designed them and owns Terp Fresh. He lives in Rogue River. And we had planned on meeting up a bunch because I wanted to talk about getting bulk prices. And then he makes that like nitrogen sealer and talking about having my local grow shop buy one nitrogen sealer and then rent it out to people, because it's just not practical to have your own $4,000 nitrogen sealer.
Do you want me to, I know Ryan, do you want me to see if I can get him on a committee meeting for you guys?
Yeah, I think he's cool.
Just let me know when you guys want to meet for the packaging committee meeting, and I'll tell him, hey, you need to be there.
Is this the Terp Fresh person?
Terp Fresh.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's who Ryan is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that sounds good. What about a window rather than full clear side? Because again, that would be maybe less hazy. That's again, like I'm looking at the reusable side of it. So like I did see that Grove Bags offers some that just have a window, and that might be kind of a cool option too.
I think the Terp Fresh have a window.
It's a window.
Yeah, they're up there on the shelf up there on the left.
And I see Tyler and Aaron both have their hands up if one of you guys wants to.
Yeah, sure. My chime in is I basically aim to use what the bags that Kristine have, either black or white. But at the same time, I am talking with Best Bud Bags on a smaller packaging idea that my business partner has. And the idea there is not using stock size, but actually using like custom printed stuff. So here's like a custom printed, custom sized bag. This one's a little wider. These are all, custom made stuff. And I envision, Southern Oregon Family Farms having something custom printed like this. So, I would see this as like Southern Oregon Family Farms with basically each farm has their own kind of side to it. So I think talking to Emily down there at Best Bud Bags, she's the office lady, to talk about what our needs are to help get some pricing and to understand like how and what that looks like is my point of information. I really want to until we have the professional view of the bags I just saw, I really want to try to keep costs low and keep, just basically run with the Mylar bags that Kristine is about to show you. Because I have like a 400-pound order going out here pretty soon of last year's product that I'm not really aiming to, I'd basically just use the bags that Kristine is about to show.
So I have a bunch of different bags because I've been so these are all Grove bag samples, and they have like the same thing. Like you can get they'll make custom, and they said that they'll do basically it's like a 2,000 order minimum, but they can do like multiple printings in that 2,000 order. Like they can do like 10 different logos or whatever, and they literally make every size and every shape versus like fresh frozen bags, and they have like drum liners, like a ton of information there. These are bags that I got from my local grow shop. They're called Harvest Keepers. I think they're kind of cool because they have this like viewing window on the side here. And they keep your product at like between 58 and 62% humidity naturally, like they vent somehow, but also are Mylar. These are the Terp Fresh bags I use. This is the white one, and it doesn't fill up the whole pound. But I use the black ones, and then they also have a gold bag that has no window, and they have a silver bag that has no window also, but they'll do custom bags too. I believe Ryan from Terp Fresh can make custom branded bags. And then these are my craft bags. They're not as good. These are my reusable or my compostable like bags, but the viewing windows kind of like, because of the material that they use, it's kind of cloudy looking, and they don't keep stuff as fresh. They're not quite as good as a Mylar bag. So that's why, but I use them for like gifts when I'm giving weed or like for my small samples. But yeah, if anybody wants to look or touch any of these many bags I have, they're up for looking at.
Cool.
Tyler has his hand up.
Yeah, so as far as the opaque question goes, as long as there's a bag that the buyer can pull out, then I'm all for the opaque. Obviously the window is so that people can see it, it lets light in so that they can see the flower when they open it. I have always been the type of person that likes to keep all light that I possibly can off of my flower. So opaque in that way is obviously the best option. My concern would be the compostable bags and what like quality level of terpene retention they're going to do.
And that's why I see them as a liner. And so you're still leaning on the Mylar bag. Whatever we land on there will be the thing that's doing the job. And because I don't know what to expect from these turkey style bags as far as that goes. But I wouldn't expect them to hold and lock in terps and things like that. But
the idea is that, because you're talking about the liner bag.
Yeah.
But the idea is that this liner bag that we're talking about, because it's compostable and it's sustainable, is that's the bag that we can that's the bag that the bud goes into, but it's the outer Mylar bag that is the typical, oh, well, anyway, that's what protects the terps mostly. Sorry.
Yeah. And
so you were talking about the return of the Mylar. Would your projection be that they give you that back completely after the weed's sold? Because what I see a store doing, and this is where my concern comes from, is taking that bag, removing it from the Mylar as soon as they buy it, and then putting it on a shelf or in a safe. Because the store is probably going to be like, oh, it's 2 bags, and then they'll just like want to give you the bag back before the product is sold or on the shelf.
My intention here is to leave that bag with them and let them know that this is the bag that does the real work here. And it's asking us an extra step. It's a small step, but we're asking them to like open one bag to go to the other, to like when you want to fill your jar. And I see these bags, because they are the same dimensions as a turkey bag. They're probably going to be, you'll either use a twist tie or you'll just tie it off, whichever one seems to be most sensible for you and your customers. But we do have to do our work if we're going to reduce waste. And so when I'm speaking to my customers, it's like, I'm asking you to take these few steps, but this could have a really big impact on the overall picture if people head this direction, and it will never get there if we don't start. So for my part, I've already ordered 250 of these liners, and I'm going to start out right away this year with the customers that I have that are established relationships. People I expect will give this a try. I'm going to do a trial run with them.
Awesome.
And knowing that, along the way, there are going to be a number of customers that will be one-off type of sales. Maybe you do sales that are going through a wholesaler and you don't have that connection. So that's that. But we're just doing our part. I want to do my part, so.
And sorry if Brian did mention this, because I'm also taking notes at the same time, but an important part of being able to reuse that outer Mylar bag is that there would be some labeling that lets them know, like, to keep these bags together. Please return outer bag when, finished with selling.
And Aaron, if I may speak before you, just so that I don't forget what I wanted to say here, is that I see so going back to like Southern Oregon family farms, we all agree that we are environmentally conscious farmers and that we want to do things good for the environment. So I have always seen packaging as a one point where we could all do things that are for the greater good. And I think that packaging itself is just it's such a wide outreach, right? Everybody who's receiving our product is also receiving packaging of some kind, whether that's direct to the customer or if it's just to the dispensary. But I think that if Southern Oregon family farms can use packaging as one of the points where we say this makes us environmentally responsible, it's tangible. People who buy from us will learn that that's not some like deep down like, oh, they're environmentally responsible in this other way that we don't ever see. I think that that's a really forward facing way to be like, this is Southern Oregon Family Farms doing our part. So that I just wanted to share that I think that this is a unique opportunity for us to really, to not be greenwashing, but to be actually doing good. So that's all.
So when you talk to Ryan of Terpene Fresh, I know I have a friend that has multiple of those sealing machines, and I have a feeling that he would at least let us use or rent one of them. So that might save Ryan the cost of spending money on a machine. That also might let my friend get some return on a machine that he bought that he's not using. It does not have the nitrogen attachment to it. So there would be the adding of the nitrogen element to it. So that's just a point of information.
So the bag is like a vacuum sealer. Is that what this is?
Yeah, and it's super wide. It's like it's you know, $4,000 or $5,000 machine that I think that Kristine that they bought from Terpene Fresh from Ryan when he used to be next to Redwood Nursery. Go ahead, Patrick.
I would say as far as those nitrogen sealers, we used to have one, but it burned up in the fire. I don't know. Those are kind of made for long-term storage, I would say. And hopefully we don't need to have long-term storage because we're selling all our product. I don't know if that's a good use of the money. And then we used to have like jars that are branded and kind of hoping for that same return type of deal from the dispensaries. And it's really hard for them to take that level of step for them to even save anything. But I do like the thought of, you know, trying to, this is what we do, this is what we believe in. I just think it's another uphill battle we'd be fighting, but I'm into it at the same time.
We thought about the glass jars too, just because we've been seeing that around, but it's like, that just seems like kind of a nightmare with transportation. And yeah, that is like a lot more space for the dispensaries to store it, whereas the bags just fold it up. Anyway,
and
I'm gonna end the recording here pretty soon. I've got to get going. There were a couple of things we need to address, and then you guys can carry on before my laptop's gonna die too. I wanted to make the sale, the state of the market kind of a fixture of the general meeting at some point. And then also it would be good to give members an opportunity to ask questions, like for education purposes, like last time we were I think it was Alan asked about like, how are we not going to flood the market, you know, like with it, if we all, and you guys were sharing in like in terms of like trimming, you trim throughout the year. I felt like, wow, that was like a really good reason we have the co-op, is to be able to provide this kind of advice. And the bag conversation is a huge conversation. I think that it might be good for that to be the committee, it discussed in the committee, as well as product placement on the shelves and storage and the whole like dispensary experience. What is the experience? Like, what are the bags? What is the experience at the dispensary? What is the dispensary's experience with the product? Where do we want it on the shelves? How does it look on the shelves? And then what does it mean when we come back? Are there bags that are set aside that we need to replace? Or do we go in there and fill the shelves for them? I don't know. It's just something to think about. But that whole experience should probably be thought through. And then, and that would be like that packaging committee. Because originally, before it was just the packaging committee, I had wrote packaging and product placement. So something to think about. I'm almost done. Yeah. And so, and that's about it. And then the other thing is like, we had talked about moving the meetings. I feel like there's some more work that needs to be done before we start, like, as far as like organizing committees and whatnot. So I don't know, like maybe I'll have to get your guys' feedback, like maybe after the fact, in terms of, do you want to move the meetings now from, or do we need to have another board meeting and have a discussion about how we want to move forward?